and as we look at Joseph, we see we really see kind of the perfect Christian. Let's just put it that way. If you were to be the very best Christian you could be, Joseph would be that example. And I mean, you cannot be in a further pit than he was in, and as a young lad, and so today we are looking at a different portion. Let me bring you up to date just a little bit. We started with Joseph in chapter 37, and in chapter 37, Joseph was a 17-year-old boy. He's his father's favorite. We learned some things. He was a tattletale. And you know, there's times to be a tattletale, and there's times that you need to know. I have, as a business owner, I have had times when if it had to do with the safety of people, or if it had to do with theft and the loss of money, I needed to know that. That's not a tattletale. That's, you know, that's I need to know that. But if somebody's just telling a dirty joke or something, and then to come and say, well, you know what he said about so-and-so or so-and-so, I don't need to know that. Keep that to yourself. And that's what he was accused of, being a tattletale. And then he had 2 dreams, and those dreams, he explained those dreams to his brothers and his father and mother. And when he said that, when he did that, we questioned, now, why would you do that? You know, why would you tell a dream that your stalks are going to rise up and all the others are going to bow around you? Why would you do that? Well, the reason why he did it is going to be seen in the future, because when it becomes a reality. Now, you look at it and say, well, that wasn't a smart thing to do, because it drove the people away from him. But God has a plan in our lives, and as I study the Bible, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Who can tell me real quick? The difference between knowledge is you study books, go to college or whatever, and you study books, and boy, you can add and subtract and all this. Wisdom comes with experience. That's why older people they have some, well, I can tell things all the time about my grandfather. He lived to be 99. And I'm always quoting things about well, one thing he said, live and learn and die a blockhead. That's wisdom. He knows, because he lived and learned, and while he's at 99, he's still learning. You know, you think you know it all when you're a teenager, and when you get in your 20s, you're the smartest person your mom and dad don't know anything. You know, your grandfather's just an old fuddy-duddy that's just a stick in the mud, don't know anything. And yet when you get to 50s and 60s and then in 70s, you say, man, he knew a lot. He was smart. You know, well, that's wisdom. And as we study people, there's one thing that we see. God has a plan, and we've studied that. God has a plan for you and a plan for me. He has a plan for every one of us. He has a time. He has a time that you're born, and he has a time that you're going to die. You do not know either one of those, but you know when this event took place, but you don't know when this event's going to end. And so you and I, we live our life day to day, and we live our life desiring to please God and to do those things which will be pleasing to him. But we don't know that day when will be our last day. Just in Terrell the other day, or Greenville, a 24-year-old lady driving a Amazon truck, or what I think it was Amazon truck, drove across the railroad crossing in the country with no signs except yield, and she's dead today. She didn't know that was going to happen. We don't know that time stamp that's there. But we do know that God has a plan for every one of his children. And in that plan, we live. And as we watch Joseph, we watch Joseph as he is born, and we watch that time where Joseph, I'm trying to figure out how to do this, where Joseph is a 17-year-old boy, and then his brothers throw him in a pit. And his brothers throw him in a pit, and they are going to kill him. Now, through all of that, here's a 17-year-old. They rip his coat off of him, and the way the scriptures indicate, they ripped all of his clothes off of him, except perhaps what was remaining at the lower section. And they threw him in, and it doesn't say they let him down in a pit easily. The wording in the Hebrew was they threw him in the pit. Here's a 17-year-old boy coming to be his brothers, to to say hi to them, find out what they need, how everything was going, and go back and give a report to the father. They hated him, and so they threw him in a pit. So here we have a 17-year-old boy in a pit. Now what you see is out of that pit, he is sold to some Ishmaelites who just happened to be his cousin, and I don't know whether they treated him better or treated him worse. I don't know how they treated him. But we know one thing, that God is involved in all of this that we see. And so we have the life of a Christian. Sometimes we take off and we realize we're loved by the Father. We realize we are being the blessing to others. And yet people hate us. Evil hates good. Let me just put it very simple to you. And today has never been more obvious that evil and good and truth and lies. It's never been more separated than we see it today. And so here we have this 17-year-old boy now as a slave being sold to Ishmaelites, goes to Egypt, and today we're going to find him in being sold to Potiphar. And Potiphar is a well-to-do individual. He is kind of a leader of the military. And for the next 10 years, Joseph will be spending that time with him. And what we're going to see today as we study this is just the marvelous grace of God, but also the attitude that we should have, a Christian should have, a godly person should have. And we're going to see that. But throughout history, and he's going to go into jail and then come back out, and he's going to be... So everything we see as we follow Joseph is God's plan. He don't see it that way yet. He don't understand it. You and I don't understand it. But we see stepping stones from this point here to where Potiphar, and then in jail, and then he becomes a king's leader, second in command in all of Egypt. How did that happen? How did that happen? Well, we have a godly man with a godly attitude, living his life godly. That's what happens. And even though he was in the pit, even though he's got thrown in another pit, and this time he's chained to things, he comes out of that and he raises to the highest level. Why? Because God has a plan. God has 12 of his children. 11 of his children that's going to be going through a drought season. And not just that, we have today, or yesterday, or last, whenever I was here before, chapter 38 is another example. We have Judah. And as we study the 12 tribes of Israel, and we see how, Jacob chose Rachel. God chose Leah. You understand what I'm saying? Jacob, he said, oh, I love this woman. He runs up and kisses her, and he's all in love with Rachel. Love at first sight. Well, God wanted Leah. Because within Leah, we have Levi and Judah. But with Rachel, God gave Joshua. God gave us Joshua. And as we watch through history, we see here, I think one of the reasons why all of this is happening, I'm going to try to bring this up so we can all understand. With Judah, what happens to Judah? Judah is going to be, he's going to be given the gift of sovereignty. And the scepter shall not depart Judah, nor lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Genesis 49:10. That is, Judah is going to get the gift of sovereignty. Well, Judah don't know that, right? You don't know. You don't know about your life. And so what does Judah do? He goes out like his cousin Ishmael, and he marries a Canaanite. What is he thinking? I mean, he knows better. Abraham, the Shemites is who they're supposed to be coming through. His Isaac and his father Jacob, he went to Shem and got from the family of Shem. And so he goes and marries a Canaanite, and then he has children. He has the emergency room and the generator, Er and Onan, and then Shelah, and he has these children, and God says so God kills two of the children. The other one is just kind of cast aside, and then through some kind of fate, Tamar goes out and plays the harlot, and for a 30-minute fling, we have where God wanted him to be. God gave them Zerah and Pharaz, which are in Matthew chapter 1, verse number 3. We have all of that, and so it was God's plan. So what I'm saying is, God has a plan from the beginning to the end. We don't know God's plan. Our life, when we get started, is like this. We don't know God's plan, but God has a plan. I was thinking this morning, D.L. Moody, there's always the story you hear of D.L. Moody, was a shoe salesman. And a Sunday school teacher at the church won D.L. Moody to Christ. And D.L. Moody, you know, became the great preacher, D.L. Moody. Who won the Sunday school teacher to Christ? And who won the preacher that won the Sunday school teacher? Who won him to Christ? And then who won him to Christ? And who won him to Christ? You don't know what your life has benefited. We don't know. And we won't know until we get to heaven. I had a man on my bus route. His children, he had 10 children, and his children were coming on the bus, and finally won his wife to Christ, and then won him to Christ. And then later I found out he became a pastor, a preacher. He went to the seminary and became a preacher. And now he just recently, matter of fact, he came to visit us one Sunday. He surprised me. And his one of his children is a preacher, and I don't know where that goes. You see what I'm saying? You win one person to Christ, they have, who they've won to Christ, and where that ends up. It could be one of the greatest preachers in the world, or it could be just another pastor, or just somebody that wins somebody else. Are you kind of getting what I'm saying? Our life has an ending point. And when God's finished with us, that's it. Well, no matter how many vitamin C's I take, E's and B's and D's and H's and M's and whatever else is out there, no matter how much walking I do, no matter how much things that happen in my life, God has a timestamp. And and in our life, we are an influence to somebody. God has put us here for a reason. You are here for a reason. You are in this church today for a reason. It's all a part of God's plan. And it cannot be better seen than in the life of Joseph. and Judah for that matter. I mean, it's like, well, you look at him and you say, what in the world is going on? He marries a Canaanite, then God has to take care of this one, has to take care of this. And then Tamar goes over here, plays the harlot. Next thing you know, now we have the man that God wanted to set up the line to David, to set up the line to Mary and Joseph. That's in God's plan. Judah tried to screw it up. But God still has a plan. And that's the way it is in our lives. So now I have 23 verses to go through real quick. But I wanted you to see it. Try to see it and try to understand, because it's exciting when you see it. Let's look here at now this young boy, Joseph. Let's look at verse number 1. Now, and Joseph was brought down to Egypt. Now, understand, he's on a caravan. They may have him tied up. I don't know. But he's a slave. He's been bought. I'm glad I've been bought by the precious blood of Christ. I'm glad I'm a servant of His. And he's been bought. And he's by the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. Anytime you go to Egypt or anytime you go away from Jerusalem, you're going down. It doesn't matter if you're going north, south, east, or west, you're going down. And it says here, and the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Now, 17-year-old boy, cast away by his brothers who desired him to be dead, was saved by Judah and sold to a traveling group of merchants, Ishmaelites. And his whole life is like, he's lost now. He is completely away. He has no thoughts of going back home. But what does he do? Does he wring his hands and lay around and mope and complain and say, oh no, what, I'm poor, poor, pitiful me? This is what we Christians need to understand. He understood that he was still God's man. He was still in God's hands. He was still God's servant. Not this, he was servant to this man, but he was servant first to the Lord. And it says that the Lord was with Joseph. Now, does that mean the Lord paid special attention to Joseph? Not any more attention to Joseph than he does to you or to me. He guides our life. We get in the pit. You ever been in the pit? Huh? They wheel you into the heart doctor and he tells you, well, I'm not only going to change the valve, he said, I got to change the root also. Okay, you didn't tell me that before. And they wheel you in and 7 hours later you come out and you're like, okay, I'm still alive. You know, God, the Lord is with him. And it says he was prosperous. That word prosperous means he was successful. He was successful. What happened here? Joseph was sold to this man. Now, Joseph had determined he's going to serve the Lord. He determined that early in his life, and God has already spoken to him and given him his word through 2 dreams. Joseph knows he has a job to do for God. And so here this 17-year-old boy is thrown in a pit, sold, moved all the way to Egypt, sold again to a Roman soldier, and is placed in this home to work. He is away from his father who loved him very much. His mother has died, and he is all alone, except the Lord was with him. In these first 5 verses, we're going to see the word Lord, which is Jehovah, at least 5 times. And so what we're seeing here is he was prosperous. He was successful. He had a positive attitude. Okay, I'm in this situation. What can I do with it? How can I live my life for Christ? How can I live my life for the Lord? And so he set about doing that which made him prosperous, made him successful. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. He was in the world. You know, God saved us and left us in the world. That's where we are today. You and I are in the world. And we have either going to serve the world or we're going to serve the Lord. He chose to serve the Lord. And his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord made all that he did prosper in his hand. In other words, Joseph set an example that his Lord recognized. Who else do we know in history did that? Remember Jacob and Laban. Laban said unto Jacob, I learned by experience that the Lord was with you. Remember, he spent, 14 years, 20 years up in Pandamaran? He spent all this time up there, and Jacob and Laban comes to him and he says, I've learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And that's what Joseph was doing, setting the example that his father had set before. And it came to, and Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him and made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put in his hand. Now this is over a period of years. He was in Potter's house something like 10 years. So as a young 17-year-old boy, he took off to please the Lord, and in pleasing the Lord, he pleased the master. You understand? You see how that works? If we make God happy, then we're going to, Proverbs 16:7, that it is man's ways, if a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. And it came to pass that from that time that he made him overseer of his house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian house for Joseph's sake. And the blessings of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. It reminds me of Jesus said, which of you convinceth me of sin? Well, in other words, which one of you can show me a sin that I have committed? Joseph, he was still a sinner. Understand that. He wasn't perfect, but he lived the life that was perfect for the Christian. He lived the life, he pleased his master. He had a positive attitude. You know, it's especially like as I get older, in my 80s now. Oh, by the way, my sweet, precious wife's birthday is today. Yes. I'm reminded of that often, but no, it comes up. And matter of fact, all the way here, she's answering people's birthday things. And so we're driving the car. I'm driving her car. So she has to lean over me to talk into the speakers that's up here to talk and tell people thank you. And so all the way home, all the way to the church, I got the thank yous that everybody was getting. Anyway, Joseph, he had set a positive attitude. He went about doing the past was past. He couldn't do anything about the past. He was not going to go back. There was no way for him to escape. To escape would mean death. And so what he did is he set about himself to do the very best that he could do. And God blessed him, and he was successful in doing it. And at the end, he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught that he had save the bread that he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. Now, those last words are going to go on to the next verse. Those words, well favored, is what words were used for Rachel. She was beautiful. She was beautiful. She was well designed. And what it's saying here is that's why Joseph was a handsome young man. And now not only was he handsome, but he was successful. We have watched, matter of fact, we just heard about another pastor of a very large church. Was it McKinney or Frisco, somewhere up there, that just fell to this same situation. The lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and bam, destroyed a family. And here we have a situation where Joseph is well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, lie with me. You know, she didn't say that when he was a 17-year-old boy and just a slave servant. She didn't say that when he was another 3 to 5 years later. She said that when Joseph became leader of the family and everything that his master had was under his hands and under his leadership, and he became an important person, and that's when evil sticks its ugly head out and says, come lie with me. Isn't it amazing how Satan knows how to tempt people? Just recently, and most of you all know it, there was one of these games where the basketball game I think it was, or something. Basketball, I think. And here they had the kiss camera going around. And there's the kiss camera, hits this one couple. All of a sudden he realizes it's a kiss camera. He falls to the ground. She's like running. He was not with his wife. He's no longer CEO. I don't think he's married any longer. And all the wealth that he had has been divvied up. Why? He became successful and said, look at me. Look at me. And listen, Satan loves it when you get in that position. And here we have Joseph, come lie with me. I mean, she's right out blatant about it. And he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master what knoweth not what it is with me in the house. He hath committed all things into my hand. And there's none greater in the house than I, neither hath he kept anything back from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? Job said, and I hadn't really thought about this, but Job said in Job 31:1, Job said, I have made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I look upon a maid? You see, it's the lust of the eyes that works on the heart. There's so many things in my life that lust works on. I love guns. I love to hunt. I'm 81 years old. I have enough guns to furnish a small militia. But I see one on the internet, or I see one in a store, and I say, man, I'd like to have that gun. Lust, the eyes. I started my truck this weekend, and the battery's dead. Well, my truck is a diesel. It has 2 batteries. So now I have to change 2 batteries. If I take it to the dealer, that's $1,000. If I do it myself, it's $500 and a broken fingernail. Or I can go buy a new truck. Lust of the eyes goes into the heart. It's not just about a woman. It can be about many things in our life that can affect it. Job said, I made a covenant with my eyes. Why then should I look upon a maid? Matthew said, but I say unto you, or Jesus said to me, I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. That's through the eyes directly into the heart. And then Romans 6:2 says, God forbid, how shall we that are dead to sin live any longer in it? Let's rush through this. All right. And it came to pass, verse number 10. So I only have 13 verses. Let's go. 5 minutes. It came to pass as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her or to be with her. So every day now, for a period of time, she makes herself available. I can see her now sitting on a chair and kind of revealing a little bit to herself, making herself available to him, hoping that the lust of the eyes will work to the heart, right? And so she's working and working and working on Joseph, but Joseph is single-minded. Joseph's idea is, I will serve the Lord, and I will be his servant. I will be faithful to my Lord, and I will be faithful to my master. And Joseph is saying that he's living a life pleasing to God. And here we have the temptation of the devil himself. And it came to pass when she saw that he had left his... Okay, let's go back to verse 12. And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. What happened now was Joseph let his guard down. He knows that evil is waiting in the house. It's like there's a rattlesnake in the house. You know it's there. But it happens every day, so you get used to it. And then one time, there's nobody else in the house, and Joseph goes in without checking. When I was pastoring a church, I had one of J. Frank Norris's song directors was our speech, and he gave us so much good information about how to deal with ladies in the church that wanted to have a counsel with you. You know, always have a secretary, receptionist, somebody there to protect you. But when you let your guard down and you have a weak moment, well, Joseph had that. And she comes in, and now she's aggressive. She grabs him. She knows nobody's there. Nobody's going to tell on her. He forgot to be careful, and she grabs him, and he leaves his coat. The Bible says he runs out into the street, is what the words mean. He left his garment with her. Now she fears he'll tell her husband. And so she has to make up a story and lie. I love what Matthew Henry says here. Those that have broken the bonds of modesty will never be held to the bonds of truth. It is no new thing for the best of men to be falsely accused of the worst of crimes by those who themselves are the worst of criminals. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant. Okay, the word Hebrew, of course, I've told you many times, it really come about because of changing, going across. This is what the Canaanites called the Shemites. When they came down, when Abraham came down into Canaan, they called them Hebrews because they had crossed over from Iraq and went over the two rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, and they called them Hebrews. It means to pass over. And really here it is kind of like a dirty word. A dirty word. The Hebrew is what she's kind of throwing out. This Hebrew that you brought into the house this is his garment. And it came to pass as I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his garment and fled. Well, she never lifted up her voice and cried, so it's a lie. But understand something. Don't expect the devil to be truthful, right? Don't expect evil to be truthful. Don't expect when you're watching television to hear the truth. Please Please don't expect when you read Facebook that you're reading truth. Stop it. Stop it. This is truth. It's all the truth you need. I didn't make it. We'll finish next week. Joseph goes to prison. This poor young man, and yet he is in God's blessings all the way through. You can just see the hand of God move in his life. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Father, thank you for the wonderful day. I pray, Lord, for Brother Matthew and Susan and the family. God bless them. And I just pray you'll bless our service this morning, Brother Coleman, as he brings the message. And I pray you'll bless our church, and I pray that this next week when we have our 52nd anniversary, that you'll give us the best crowd this church has ever seen and a revival spirit to shake our midst. In Jesus'